Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on the Ben Murphy Show. Today we have AJ Becht, who is one of the best photographer videographers in the area. He joins us today to talk about his background, some life-defining moments, his real estate experience, and so much more. Honestly, you guys do not want to miss this one. Stay tuned. Well, AJ, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here, brother. I really appreciate it. So today, I want to talk about a lot, but I want to start off by, let's take a look into what brought you to where you are here today. So I want to talk about your background a little bit, and then we'll get into, what got you into photography and, kind of where life's taking you. So I know there's some really pressing questions, but the first one I want to ask is what led you to being a Cowboys fan?
Yeah, we're going to get into the hard-hitting issue right away.
Yeah, right away.
Basically, I was 5-6 years old when I started watching football.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're a kid, you're impressionable. And
for sure.
At that point, it's mid-90s, and they're winning. Every year they're winning. So I'm like, okay, that's my team. They just win every single year.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I feel like there was part of it where my dad just hated the Cowboys.
Really?
Least favorite team. I'm like, that's my favorite team. So I'm rooting for them. They're on TV, and he's like, oh, can't stand it. I'm like, okay, that's my go-to.
That's awesome, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The reason I'm a Packers fan is just geographical. I'm sure if I was born in Texas, I'd be a Texans fan, or if I was in New York, maybe I'd be a Giants fan. I don't know. Anyways,
all of my sports affiliations are all over the board. So it's Penn State Nittany Lions for college football.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Brewers are the only hometown team.
Fair enough.
I guess I like Marquette for basketball.
Okay.
They obviously don't have a football team or anything.
Right.
Orlando Magic for basketball, and the Cowboys for football. So it's all over the board. I think it was just again, mid-90s. I'm getting into watching sports, and I just never got off the bandwagon.
Yeah.
So
for me, in my lifetime, I just never really seen the Cowboys winning because I was born in the mid-90s.
Nice.
So, anyways, I just wanted to start with that.
Yeah.
So, I know you have a somewhat of a background with multiple facets of real estate. You're now into photography and with your current company, specifically real estate photography. So, Can you give us a little bit of your background?
Yeah.
In that, and then I want to go a little bit further back too as well.
So do you want me to go back to real estate when I first got into
the beginning?
The beginning. That. So I first started working as an admin at RE/MAX and just kind of filing paperwork. They still had a fax machine at that point.
What year was this? I'm just curious if you remember.
I don't remember. Probably 2012. Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know. I'm going to date myself with all this too, because originally I was going to come on here and say, hey, I'm 25, I'm from Milwaukee, but now I dated myself 100%. But yeah, so I started at RE/MAX as an admin. I was going to school for physical therapy assistant, PTA, and my ultimate goal is I wanted to work with athletes.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what I wanted to do. And I'm going through school, and someone at RE/MAX is like, why are you doing this? Why don't you get your license? You're going to make great money. You can join this team. And I'm like, okay. So I did that instead and got my license and hit the ground running with it. Joined a team at RE/MAX, and looking back on it, I hear about join a team and, it's going to be great. My experience was not so great as far as.
For sure. And not every team is great.
Mm-hmm.
Some teams out there they're just trying to get as many agents on their team and make money off of them and not really provide any service.
Yep. For me, it was boots on the ground. All of the inner city listings, those are what I'm going for. And, I'd leave the office and they're like, I get a call from the listing agent make sure you bring a square bit drill because you have to take the boards off the doors.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, nice. And I'm vertically challenged.
Was this for a showing or?
Yeah, for showings. So I latched on pretty early to an investor from Chicago, just bought up the absolute worst. The worse it is, the better it is for him. So I went through the absolute worst of the worst homes and, had to get my concealed carry. And not a gun guy, and
yeah.
I'm keeping it in the front of my North Face pocket. Like, that's not what I want to be doing. So
Did you ever have any like close calls where you were just like really uncomfortable and had to pull that thing out?
yeah, I mean,
At showings and like, oh my gosh.
yeah, a lot of squatters.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, obviously they don't care. Like, they see something boarded up, and that kind of gives them a green light. Like, okay, nobody's coming.
Yeah,
through
nobody
here.
lives here. I'll live
Yeah.
here.
Yep. So yeah, it was tough. And, after a while, it's like you get so exhausted with it.
Yeah.
So I kind of got away from real estate, and then
I don't blame
got
you
into
for that. Yeah.
got into lending, and I was a lender for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, I came in as a business developer / lender or loan officer,
Mm-hmm.
and found out quickly that they didn't want me to do any of the business development. It was all just loan officer. I was just beating the street and like exhausted from, the sales aspect. So I didn't last long. It was a year, and I had every single deal just fall apart.
Oh my
fall
gosh.
apart and fall apart.
Do you remember what year this was? Just so I can get some perspective.
Yeah, I think it was I was going to say 2020,
Okay.
like a tough year for real estate as
It
far
was
as
a tough year in
lending.
real estate. Yeah. Especially then, like with all the confusion happening. So I don't doubt that all of a sudden everything started exploding, and then it's like, here we go again.
Yep. Yeah, it was tough. So I kind of got away from that, and then went into title. So it was all different branches. Like, I had contacts through each step, and it's like, hey, come over here. You can make, a salary, a commission, whatever. Obviously with real estate, it's just commission.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually then I got into title and was there about a year. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
For some reason, and it's odd. I hate numbers. I hate crunchy numbers. And obviously title is that last thing during closing. So if something goes wrong, that's on you 100%. But I enjoyed it a lot. And unfortunately, Fidelity is where I worked. They folded. So they got out of residential, and it was just commercial.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a job at that point. And I'm like, actually probably I would say 4 months before I got let go and they closed the doors on that, I got into photography.
Really?
Yeah. So it was almost a saving grace for me that I was able to latch onto something, and that, helped me get by.
So 4 months before you lose your job, you get into something that's going to launch into your career now. I mean, what was it that made you want to get into photography? What gave you the idea of like, hey, this is something I'll try? Because from what I'm understanding is you weren't starting anything with photography to quit your title job at the time, right?
Yep.
You're just like, this is something I want to try.
Yeah.
And you didn't think that you were going to make it into something, but now here you are. So what led you there?
And it wasn't even like any type of money that I was looking for. I just wanted to do it as like a fun hobby. Just get out and take some photos. Originally, years ago, my mom liked photography. I got her a camera. She bought me a camera. And, it was obviously one of those old cameras, like not anything great. But I picked this thing up, and, I went to like manual mode on it. And I'm looking at all these numbers and all these settings, and I'm like, what is this stuff? And I'm taking photos, and I'm like, well, these are junk. So I set it to automatic, and I'm like, okay, obviously you're not a photographer, like you don't know much about, but if you want to just pick it up and shoot photos, then, that's the automatic setting.
Right.
I'm setting this to manual, and nothing. Like, it's just junk photos. And I'm like, this is stupid. I don't want to do this. So that was back in the day. After my mom passed away in 2020, then I kind of had a thought, like, maybe I should pick up a camera. It was a weird thought. I don't know why, but one of my buddies, one of my best friends, Keith, he has a camera, and he does a lot of like golf photography and things like that. And he asked me if I could take like some photos of him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So I picked up the camera, and I'm starting to take photos. He's showing me how to do everything. And it was nice to actually learn it, like have somebody there hands-on with me.
Absolutely.
And he looks at these photos, and he's like, this is out of focus, that's out of focus, this is out of focus, these aren't very good. And something about that just drove me nuts, where I'm like, oh, I want to get good at this. So that was pretty much my driving force to, get good at photography and get a camera. On my birthday, that next year, my wife, Corey, was going to buy me I think speakers for like home theater. I
Mhm.
wanted like some beefed up like
Yeah.
clipped speakers or something, and she's like, yeah, I'll give you like some money for the speakers and whatever. And we were at dinner at Carson's, and she's like, hey, so did you pick out the speakers? And I said, actually, I think I'm gonna get a camera. She's like, for what?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, take photos. Like I can take photos of you, I can take photos like of nature or whatever. And she's like, that's kind of odd, right? I was like,
Mhm.
it is. But again, something at that time told me like, just buy the damn camera. So got the camera, and rest is history. I mean, it was a huge saving grace for me to be able to have that. But, you know, I tell people too, it's weird how a decision that you make today might
Mhm.
affect what you're doing tomorrow or next week, next year, the rest
And you
of your
might
life.
not even know.
You don't even know it.
Mhm.
So, you know, if I would have gotten those speakers, I'm just sitting on my couch, like not doing anything then.
What are you gonna do with these speakers, right?
Yeah. But I have the
Wow.
camera, and now I'm, you know, with an awesome company with
I mean,
great
that's
people.
pretty incredible. Like,
Yeah.
who knows if you might have just tried to find another title company to go work with.
Yeah.
And you easily could have done that
Yep.
because you have the experience, you have a lot of real estate experience as a whole. You understand the entire process.
Exactly.
Any title company probably would have been happy to hire you.
Yep.
But something else nudged you in the direction of getting a camera. I mean, for me, like I say, hey, that's God saying, hey,
Yeah.
this is what I want you to do with your life.
100%.
And you heard it and you just went for it. And that's awesome.
Yep.
So how long ago was that?
That was when I got the camera, or when I think 2022. Yeah,
Got it.
2022.
And you've been with your current company
Rock Rose
for about a year now?
Yep.
That's awesome.
And it's been just, I'm not even just saying this, like one of the best years of my life. Because it's being around like-minded individuals, all with like crazy passion. It's insane to be around.
Yeah.
You know, Matt is 22 years old. Ian, I don't know how young he is. Like we just got
I think he's
Jameson.
like maybe 25 or something like
Yeah,
that.
like, and I think back to like when I was that age, and I think like, how are they so successful, and how are they so intelligent?
No, honestly, I agree with you on that 100% because I have an agent on my team. His name's AJ as well, and
I met him.
He just turned he just turned 19 in December, and I'm like, wow, when I was 19, bro, I just know I wasn't in real estate.
Yep.
I was in college trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I actually didn't join the military until I was 20 years old. And like, it took me a while to figure out exactly. And I became a real estate agent at 24 and I'm about to turn 29 in June.
Yeah.
So like, you look at these young guys around us and it really is, it's incredible. It's inspiring, their work ethic. I see the guys on your team too. Like, you can see the passion they have, the drive that they have. It's not motivation. It's just like deep down inside how driven they are. And I see the same thing with you.
Yeah.
And that's why I love working with you guys. And
Yeah.
I know always that I can trust you guys with my listings. Like, I don't even have to be there. You know, I love to be there to catch up with you and everything.
I was disappointed yesterday.
I know. I'm sorry I couldn't make that one. But like, that's the good thing is like, I know that how dependable you guys are and that I can just, you know, if I can't make it to a shoot, I know it's going to turn out good. Now, I haven't looked at the photos yet because I haven't
So
had
we
a
don't
chance,
know.
but I'm sure it looks amazing as
they
always.
look great.
So you mentioned you shared this, you know, photography, somewhat of a passion for photography with your mom. Was she a photographer at all? Or?
Not at all. No, she just took nature like photos of, you know, the sunset and things like that.
Yeah.
And she was the opposite of like an artsy type. She was like Harley Davidson.
Really?
Type. Yeah.
Were you guys pretty close?
Very close.
And
Best friend in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, man. First of all, I'm really sorry for your loss. I know it's not something we've talked about before, and you know, if you're comfortable, we can chat about it.
Yeah.
But can I ask what happened?
Don't really know. Over the years, she was a heavy smoker. So like a pack to 2 packs a day since she was 16.
Okay.
Just a long time to be smoking. And
Yeah.
she would kick it for a little while, like when she's in the hospital, and then get out and just keep doing the same thing over and over. And it's, it was tough to sit by and watch that happen and watch her deteriorate over the years. And, there's nothing you can do about it. Like you try to, and
Of course.
I used every tactic. I used the nice side, and hey, you should stay around for your granddaughter and things like that. Or, I would get angry and I'd scream and yell at her about it. None of it worked.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of times where it's like in life, you can't avoid certain things. Like someone's just on that path, and they're just going to do what they want to do.
Right.
So I think eventually, like her lungs just kind of broke down. Don't know really about what happened on that specific day, but I had talked to her at noon. I was actually going for a walk around the block, and that's when I was working as a lender. And I was like, I just need to get out of the house for a little bit. And I call her. She hadn't been feeling well that whole week, and she was a bartender in Milwaukee. And that whole week, I'm like, you're not going to go to work this week, right? She's like, no, I'm not going to. I'm going to tell him I'm not going in. I'm like, okay. So I call her on my lunch, and I'm walking around, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? She's like, okay, like I'm at work. I was like, Mom. I said, why? Like we talked about this.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I know. She's like, she always called me Abers. That was her name for me, Abers. And she's like, Abers, I know you're pissed at me. And I'm like, I'm not pissed at you. I just think you're stupid. Sorry. And
no, bro, it's totally okay.
And that's what I said to her, is I just think you're stupid. And I said, give me a call when you get home. She's like, okay, I will. It's like 5, 6 o'clock. Didn't hear anything from her. And I text her and I said, are you home? And nothing. And that's not abnormal. Like,
Right.
with bartenders or whatever, like they'll stay later. They'll kind of hang out with people. And I just had a weird feeling, very strange feeling. And I got a call that there was some medical emergency at the house, and they were working on her, which, at the time I didn't know they were trying to bring her back.
Yeah.
I guess she had just fallen over. She was on the phone with my aunt and fell over, and that's that. So I've never ran more fast in my life to get to my car. Living downtown, she lived like in Milwaukee, probably 20 minutes away. And I got there, and there's an ambulance leaving when I was getting there, and I'm like, oh, that's got to be the one. So I follow him to St. Joe's, and I saw her for 1 minute when they got out, and they said, like, you can't be over here and whatever. And I said, that's my mom.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I want. So I just went over to her and I said, just keep fighting. And that's the last thing I, got to say to her. And they basically told me in the waiting room that her heart was firing, but she didn't have oxygen.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of times where I hold myself responsible. I think, like, maybe I should have gone there. Maybe I should have, like, if I would have been there, I could have given CPR, and you drive yourself nuts with all the possibilities and potential of doing something. But really, at the end of the day, like, that was God's plan. So
exactly.
It's hard to accept it, though. You can say that all day, but very hard to accept.
Yeah, man. And first of all, I just want to thank you for sharing that. I didn't know any of that, so I know that wasn't easy to talk about. And also, I can't 100% directly relate, but I know exactly how it feels to get a call like that. Like, I don't know if I've ever told you this before. I lost my sister in 2020. I'm a triplet. And
2020 you did?
Yeah.
What month?
February.
Okay. I was going to say I lost my mom in November.
Yeah, and that's actually why I have this tattoo right here. Because it's me and my two sisters, and then Katie was born in the middle, so that's why I have a halo over the top.
Love it.
But I got a call on the 25th of February. You never forget dates like this,
Nope.
right? And it was my dad, and he basically was explaining to me, like, something happened, like, we got a call from the police, ambulance is going over there, and all the language that was being used, I was like, she's gone. Like, I knew it. And this was at like 7 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
I had just finished up at the gym. I was living with Tiffany, and we were living downtown in the third ward. So I remember I flew off one of these exits, whipped around back to my parents' house. And it's just like I remember that phone call like it was yesterday, and it was over 4 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I never got to see her at that point. And I didn't make it to the hospital because by the time I was going to leave, like, my parents called me and said she was dead. So I was like, yeah, I guess I'll just stay back. And it was a very weird day.
What
like,
happened, if you don't mind me asking?
It was this is something I like always try and defend it. Like, that wasn't the case. There was all these other issues, but like, it was like an overdose. And I didn't know of like any like major problems. Like, there have been in my family, there have been like, some issues with drugs in the past. And like, thankfully I never ended up getting into anything like that. But she had some health issues too, and they found out after the fact, after doing like an autopsy, that her heart just kind of like, she had a heart attack essentially, and her heart was like enlarged. So like, I always tried telling that story to like make it seem like, no, it wasn't this, because I was like, I don't want people to hear that and like automatically assume something like, oh, she was some druggie. She wasn't. She was a mother to her daughter Kylie, who's my niece, and she cared so much about people. And she like, no, we're not perfect people. And she was out with some friends and took the wrong thing, and it killed her. Like, so that's why I feel like I've always tried to justify it, because I'm like, no, she wasn't an addict. She wasn't an addict. And I know that she wasn't. But, it doesn't matter if you're an addict or if and like, I know this isn't normal for this podcast, but like, I know you don't have to be an addict for something like that to kill you. Anything can happen. And I would always wonder, like, why? Like, she has a daughter, and her daughter's dad isn't around. He's somewhere else. And now Kylie isn't going to have anybody except her like other family. And I mean, it's just like, you wonder why, like, just constantly asking why. And I, at the time, Tiffany and I literally had just found out that she was pregnant 3 days before. And I always think about this because we sent a Snapchat back when, I don't know if people still use Snapchat. We don't have it anymore. But I guess I'm now dating myself too. But we sent a Snapchat to my sister Katie, my sister Megan, Erin, I think even my younger sister Kristen, because I have 4 sisters. The only person who didn't open it was Katie. And she died 3 days later. And sometimes I'm like, I wonder if she would have opened it, if she would have been like, no, I shouldn't go out. Like, I should, just be there and like, see that I have more family entering this world. So I get what you're saying is the bottom line. And I haven't lost a parent, but the first time, I sound choked up. I'm a little sick right now too. But one of the first times I've actually dealt with the grief was this year, 4 years later. And I don't know if anybody else has ever experienced this, but it's like, in the moment, like what I was going to say before is like, we had just found out we were pregnant. Tiffany and I were like still pretty new in our relationship and like trying to navigate through all that. A couple weeks later, COVID hits. Like, and I'm like, literally, Nate and I had started another business too at the time, which you guys will hear about on another podcast. I didn't have time to grieve. Like, all I could figure out was like, I'm having a family now and trying to figure out how to like make money and survive. And it wasn't until like on the 4-year anniversary, I noticed I was in like kind of a pissed off mood all day. And I was like, what the heck's going on here?
Yeah.
And then I get home and my wife and I are sitting in our sunroom and I just broke. And for like, I don't even know how long it was. I just like grieved.
Yeah.
And it was a tough experience.
Do you feel like you, like, because obviously you repressed those feelings, like, do you feel like it was worse that you just shoved that deep down, that it all came out years later?
I don't know if I want to say it was worse or like, maybe it's just like it's hard to say really.
Yeah.
I know that like it was like kind of uncontrolled at the time too. Like I could feel myself like kind of like hyperventilating a little bit. And if anybody's ever experienced something like that, you probably know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But it took me like a couple of days to deal with it after the fact. Yeah, I was a little sad during it, but like I also felt like I had to like keep my family together.
Yeah.
'Cause everybody else was falling down around me, like my mom, my other siblings. My dad just lost a daughter, and now my sister's daughter Kylie is now gonna have to live with them, and they're trying to figure all that out. So I felt like I kind of had to keep it together for everybody at the time too. But so enough
And
about
it's tough.
me.
It's a tough burden to carry too. You know, and you feel like you have to be the rock.
Yeah.
It's a very tough way to go about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get a whole lot lighter here, Ben.
Yeah, for sure.
And honestly, this is
deep.
It's one of the first times that I was able to talk about my mom passing and not completely lose it. Honestly, like I 100%, whenever I talk about it, I'm done. Like I can't recover from it, and the whole day sucks, and I can't shake it. Because it's still really like fresh in my memory. Everything is,
100%.
For me too, it's, I was growing up with like almost like a single parent. Like my dad wasn't really around when I was younger.
Yeah.
So I feel like, I was a mama's boy, if you want to call it that, because that's what I had, right?
Yeah.
So that's, obviously you gravitate towards that parent, and she was more of a friend than just a mom. It wasn't like a mother-son type thing. It was very friendly. That was like my best friend.
Yeah.
So growing up too, and having that type of like nurturing parent, that's the parent that I try to be with my daughter.
Yeah.
And it's, for some people, maybe it comes naturally or not. For me, it's 100% natural. Like right when she was born, that switch just flips.
Oh my gosh.
I'm a different person.
Way
more sensitive too. I was always sensitive, but even more now.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I remember like Tiff and I got pregnant, and I remember her feeling like really excited, and like, I'm excited too, but like it's a different feeling when you're not growing the baby inside of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the minute she was born, like this just like wave hit me, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I love this little baby more than anything right now. Yeah. And I mean, still to this day, now I got 2 of them, and they're crazy.
Yeah.
But
did you want boys, girls? Did you think about it?
I'm not exactly, I don't remember. I think like the idea of a boy was like cool and whatnot, but like I wasn't like, oh, if I don't have a boy, I'm gonna be pissed. And then I became a girl dad. Yeah. And like my world changed. And then so that was Sophia. Then we had Gabriella. And man, those two, it's like, Tiffany and I are talking about having another baby, and everyone's like, maybe you'll get the boy. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, if we have another girl, like, that's great. If we have a boy, that's awesome too. But like, they're these little mini extensions of you. Yeah. And their personalities. Oh my God, they're so funny.
It's so cool to see them grow, and like they're a reflection of you. Yeah. A direct reflection.
Exactly.
Of you. I was on the opposite end of that spectrum. I was actually angry that it was a girl. Really? I was so upset about it. I remember going to the ultrasound and we left it, and I was like in the car, and I was so upset. And I was asked like, why are you upset? Like, you're going to be a great girl dad. And I'm like, because I think it's natural for a guy to like want to pass that down, right? You want to pass
Absolutely.
down like your stuff, like my athletic ability, or like my in my case, my Dallas Cowboys memorabilia and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like you want to pass that down to your boy. So I think naturally for a guy, always when you think of having a kid, you think of like that little you, like that little boy. So yeah, I was.
Now that you're talking about it, I do think there was a
I'm glad we
time.
got that out of you.
Yeah, because it's hard for me to remember some of these things.
Yeah.
Like you get so like mine are 3.5 and 1.5 right now, so like it's hard to remember everything because it's just like pure chaos with them at this age, especially our little one. But I do think I remember like I always anticipated girls because like I said before, I have 4 sisters. So I'm like, if this is gonna like continue in the family line here, I'm bound to have girls. And sure enough, I'm right so far. 2 girls. We'll see what happens on the 3rd one. But I do remember we did the gender reveal for Gabriella. We had Sophia with us. We just had it on a little camera, and we're opening this letter. Oh my gosh, dude. The funniest freaking thing. We open this letter, and there's a Post-it note inside. It is a blue Post-it note, okay? And on the Post-it note, it says, it's a girl. I'm like, why is this a blue Post-it note? Like, what's wrong with you, nurse? So
clearly she has a sense of humor.
Yeah, that was pretty freaking funny. And like Tiffany didn't believe me at first, and I had to show her the writing. I'm like, no, it's a girl. So yeah. So I get exactly what you're saying. You mentioned like it was life-changing the second your daughter was born. Like, how did it feel for you?
Right when she was born, well, there were issues where she like the umbilical cord got wrapped around and they had to get her out like quicker than. So I guess my face was just kind of pale white. I was gonna pass out, and I was up top. I'm not the down low guy. I'm not. I don't want to see what's going on. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Bro.
So I was up top, and I still handled it like a punk. So I'm up there, and the nurse came over to me and said like, you should sit down for a minute. She could probably see like the color leave, and right when I saw her face, I'm like, oh, it's different. I saw her. I held her hand and cut the cord, and
you cut the cord.
I did.
Wow.
And I was gonna pass out.
I would have.
I don't. You haven't cut?
I have not cut any of them, dude.
And I was gonna pass out, and I'm like, there was some sort of relief though from doing that, where it's like, okay, we're like smooth sailing now.
Yeah,
we're there. But yeah, just a huge life-changing experience. Just seeing her face, and it's weird how some people don't have that feeling or that connection after seeing it, and I don't understand it because 100% right when that happened.
Yeah,
I'm a different person.
Yeah, dude. Like with both my girls, like instantly fell in love. I was like, man, these kids are crazy, and it's been a wild ride. But like, I was talking with somebody before, and like envisioning my life. Like I was in the military. I was on a deployment for a year. I started envisioning what my life was going to look like. My life is nothing what I thought it was going to be, but this is the best life that I could have asked for.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't change a thing. Yeah, there's things that happened in the past that like were tough to get through, and maybe things that you're like, I wish I could have done that differently or been different. But like, no, because had you not gone through every single thing that you did, you're not going to be this person that you are today. And my life isn't perfect by any means. Like there's still hardships all the time, but I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah, it shaped who you are.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I guess a quick question for you. What's your favorite part about being a dad?
I don't know if there's just one favorite that I can really pinpoint, but I just love seeing her grow up and kind of just be more independent. I say that, and I'm probably lying right to your face when I say that, because it's like, I want her to be more independent with things, and then she gets more independent, and I'm like, no, scale it back. Like, let's go. So our nighttime routine, every parent has a certain nighttime routine, and it's 100%. All different all over the board. And our nighttime routine forever has been, I lay with her in her bed. We either watch a YouTube video or, some story. I read her a book or whatever the case. And then when she falls asleep, I leave the room. And, you know, there's certain times where it's like, I have so much to do around the house, or I have, you know, work that I have to get to. Would you just fall asleep or whatever? But those are the moments that I like cherish the most.
I agree.
You know, and there was a point, it was, I don't know, a few weeks ago or a couple months ago or something, where I'm laying with her and she's like, Dad, you know, you don't have to lay with me. And I was like, oh, like
You're
that.
Like, shut up. Yeah, I
hit
do.
me right here. That hit me right here. So I was like, yeah, I know. I just like to. She's like, okay. Like,
dang.
Yeah, it's tough. So I'll say to you, like, don't blink. I'm sure everybody tells you that.
100%.
Hear that. But
and I know, how old is your daughter?
she's gonna be 8 in
She's gonna be 8.
September. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
I bet that flew.
Oh, 100%. It's I still feel like she's 2 years old, and yeah, it's wild how that happens.
Yeah, I know. I was looking at Sophia this morning, actually, before I left for the day, and I was like, man, like, she's 3.5 now, but I'm like, man, you like, you look different. You look like a little kid. You don't look like a toddler. And she used to say things like wrong all the time.
And I love that, by the way.
I'm just trying to, like, when she says something, she says some kink, something like that. But there's like other words where all of a sudden she has corrected. Now she's saying it the right way.
Yeah.
And I'll try and get her to say it the other way, because I'm like, no, I missed that.
My daughter's main thing, like with dinner, she loves Mexican food, and she would say Mexican food. And I'm like, please just say it like that again.
Right.
Let's go back to that.
Yeah, man, exactly.
It's a wild ride. Like, there's so many ups and downs with parenting, but it's such an awesome thing. Like, it literally just changed my life 100%. Like, I live for that person. You know? So it's crazy that when you put it into perspective, there's nothing that matters more than that little life.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And as soon as you have them, like, you realize that, like you said before, you're not just living for yourself. And when Sophia was born, that like quickly changed for me. Like, we didn't have the same issue of like an umbilical cord. But I remember like her heart rate dropping super quickly, and all of a sudden, like, panic started settling in on me, and I'm like yelling at the nurse. I'm like, do something here. Like, what's going on? We got to figure something out. Doctor flew in. We're like, okay, we're getting this baby out and all this stuff. And she was like it wasn't the NICU, because the hospital we were at didn't have a NICU. They had like a level 2, which is close to the same thing as a NICU. She was in there for like 5 days. Jeez. And that just like kind of scared the crap out of me. Yeah. And I mean, you just realize quickly that you got a whole human being that fits in like the size of your hands here, that now you're responsible.
Well, not my hands. My hands are really small. But...
Fair enough. But it's funny, like, all of a sudden they're like, yeah, you guys can go home now. I'm like, no, we need your help. How am I supposed to do this?
Yeah.
So yeah, fatherhood it's definitely a fun ride. So how long have you and your wife been married? You guys got married pretty recently, right?
Yeah, last February. So February 3rd. Well, not last February, the February before that. So it's been a little over a year, and that's been awesome. So we knew each other in high school, knew of each other in high school, and kind of just came together later on. So it was kind of wild. We used to go on double dates together, like her and her ex and me and my ex.
Yeah.
But there was never anything there. It's not like I looked at her.
You were just friends.
Just friends. So she's also my hairstylist. So
she does a great job.
You know, I sure hope so.
Yeah.
And honestly, if anyone ever says like I have a bad haircut, like, take it up with her then.
Oh,
So I did want to bring up to you, we were supposed to do this podcast
last week. Yeah. I know.
So I tipped her off. I said, hey, Corey, Ben Murphy is gonna message you because he needs to get, touched up a little bit because he's in between haircuts. And she's like, oh, okay. I was like, every day has Ben messaged
Yeah,
you?
I know. Oh my gosh.
No, so she kept saying like, no, he hasn't messaged me.
And you guys are thinking I'm like the worst.
Oh, that we don't think it. Like, that's not. So I'll just say right now, you owe her.
I do. I definitely will. My barber is gonna yell at me for cheating on him.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, and you guys know this, I was like deathly ill last week.
Yes.
And all of a sudden Friday rolls around. I'm like, maybe I can do this. Maybe I'll be okay. I wake up that morning. I'm like, if I don't feel better in the next like hour, this is it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
We'll be done.
When we were talking about ages and like Matt's age and whatever, and you were talking about AJ, is that your listing or his?
So the way that it works is like he's on my team. Like the way a lot of real estate teams work is they'll like bring on a buyer's agent or like just like a specific role. And I just allowed him to come onto my team and let him do what he wants in terms of business. So he can work with buyers, sellers, and he does help out with some of my showings because like as I have grown, I can't get to every single showing.
Yeah.
It's funny because Monday we don't have much going on. Tuesday, not really much showings. Like those are our days of like meetings, prospecting. We'll have onesie, twosie showings pop up. But then all of a sudden, like yesterday, we have like 5 different clients who want to see stuff all at the same time. And like now having him on my team, like he has his own buyers he's showing, but then he can like squeeze in some of my clients. Like he's actually with one of my clients right now.
Yeah.
So that has allowed me to have some time freed up because like showing houses is not like the most difficult task where I can I specialize now more so in the negotiations of deals rather than like getting them in the home and showing them the entire home. I can now save my time to like really get the inside scoop on what's going on with that property. Do they have multiple offers? The answer is probably yes. And
100%.
What do we need to do to be on top?
Yeah.
Like that's really where I shine and where my experience comes in, where he can like learn from me and help out with my buyers, start working with his own buyers and doing his own listings. And so far he's crushing it. I mean,
he seems super intelligent.
He is.
Really good guy. When I went up and shook his hand, he's like, AJ. I'm like, AJ.
Yeah.
Kind of one of those moments.
You guys are like
yeah, the Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But how did you meet him?
So that's a great question. He actually was a real estate agent at Keller Williams. He was on a different team. And, it just wasn't working out there. Like they're a good team, but he just wasn't a fit there. And he became an individual agent. And he'd constantly be coming to me saying like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? And I always ask him, I'm like, why are you coming to me? He's like, he pumped up my ego a little bit. He's like, well, you're the best agent here. Like you're number one. Like every time I look at the charts, like you're number one up there. I was like, all right, how can I help you?
Yeah.
So, and I like, this is not a brag or anything. As an individual agent, I was the number one in our office last year. And that's kind of what brought him to me. And he's like, I want to learn from you and I want to be the best. I want to be number one on the chart. I was like, I want that for you too.
Yeah.
So we made an agreement and he was just going to be an individual agent, but he wanted to learn quicker rather than the way that I had done it. To like, I was on a team for a little bit, but then I became an individual agent and just was tripping along the way trying to figure it all out.
Yeah.
And I can tell that he's smarter than I was and he wants to learn from somebody who's been doing it for a little bit longer. So that way he can go from here to here rather than like
all around,
exponential.
Yep.
So yeah, he's a great addition to the team. I'm really excited for him.
I feel like you're a good judge of character too, because he fits. Like he works. Going to that showing or that listing appointment, when I was driving there, it was 2 lanes on the expressway, ended up going down to the one, and someone sideswiped me when I was on the way to that photo shoot.
The Bronco?
Yes. Yeah. So I got out and I looked at the guy's car, and his car is just destroyed in the front, and it was a huge thud. I was on the phone with my wife at the time, and she's like, what is that? I was like, I just got hit. I got to let you go. Horrible thing to say, by the way, on the phone. But I said, I just got hit. I got to let you go. And I pull over. I almost get rear-ended on the expressway trying to get off.
Gosh.
And so I pull up and I look at his car, and I'm like, oh, my car is going to be in such horrible condition. I go around and I look at it, and there's just like minor scratches like on the, and I got whiplash from
really
hit, and I'm like, how did that happen? And I'm looking at my car and I'm like, this thing's a tank. Like it handled it really well. But I asked the guy, I said, where's your head at? And he said, I didn't know it went down to the one lane. And I look in his back seat. He's got 2 car seats in there. He said him and his wife are down to the one vehicle and whatever. And I'm like, are you okay? Yeah. Are you okay? Yeah. Let's just, call this, like not do anything about it.
Wow.
I said, like, let's exchange information. If my tire explodes or something, then obviously I'm going to pursue it with the insurance company. Otherwise, like, just drive safe. So that was on the way to meeting AJ at that listing. And I get there and then you're like, oh, hey, by the way, change of plans. Can we add this and, do the interior? And I'm like, yup.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
He mentioned to me that he's like, yeah, AJ seemed like something had happened. So,
I was flustered.
Yeah, like he said it wasn't obvious. He's like, I felt bad because I'm like, I felt like maybe he had to get to the next shoot. I'm like, he probably did. Like,
I did too.
He's probably in a rush.
Another showing,
dude just gets in an accident on the way there.
Dude, brutal.
Well,
absolutely brutal.
At least the car's not too beat up.
No, it's fine. And I'm healthy. I'm good. So, another blessing.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
So, what's it kind of look like for your day to day with Rock Rose? I mean, you're the main media like specialist. Like you do pretty much majority of the shoots now, right?
Yep, exactly. And that was kind of designed, like when I first came onto the team, it was to get Matt away from like shooting everything. He's very intelligent. He's, behind the scenes on everything. So as long as we can have him do more of that and less shooting, that's kind of what we were trying to do. So I think me coming onto the team too, it freed up Ian. He was able to move to Arizona. And so my day-to-day is just kind of different. And I like that aspect where not every day is the same. When I was doing title and I'm sitting there crunching numbers, every single thing is the same. It's so mundane and you're sitting behind a computer and whatever. And at that point too, I'm like, I got to do something where I'm like meeting people and getting out. Like I always say like I'm an introverted extrovert. Like like I love getting out and meeting people. It's like getting out of the house and like, talking to people and meeting I just enjoy it. So getting out and meeting new agents, meeting sellers and whatever, I love that. And a lot of times when I'm showing up at some of these listings, people are nervous. The sellers like don't know what to do. They've been cleaning their butts off for a week.
Right.
It's like I like
most
being able
of them, though, right?
Most Ben, most of them. All of yours, I feel like your listings are.
Well, that's because I force that. I'm like, you guys, like, we need this to be perfect.
Yeah. You're always on top of that. And we talk about that, like with the staging and everything, like you're always on top of that. And it's so nice to walk into a home and not have to like move things from room to room and kind of, shuffle things around. Very nice to do that. And you're more like in and out. Plus it's going to show better, right? Like these photos that, these people are trying to sell their home for top dollar. If it's in disarray, like it's not going to show well. Especially in photos. So
I agree.
You understand that.
Well, and we've both seen, and I'm sure you've seen listings on the MLS of like cell phone pictures or just like very low quality. Like maybe they used a camera, but they didn't do anything to make the photos look good. It's just it's a total disservice, and people will literally, it's the first impression, right, on a listing. Like when I was looking for homes too, anybody looking for homes, where do you start? You start online. You don't just see a sign typically and say, let's go look at that one. Yeah. You look at the photos, and within the first 5 photos, they're going to decide whether they're going to continue looking and pursue this, or they're going to just look for the next listing. Yep. I mean, we're in a low inventory market, so they might still get away with that. But I personally believe that you really need good photos and you need staging if you're trying to get top dollar. If you just want to sell as is, whatever, like sure, you'll probably get an offer. But my goal is always to get top dollar and give them the best experience possible. I didn't always believe in staging, but I've staged, I'm pretty sure every listing I've had this year now. And all the sellers are like, oh my gosh, that looks amazing.
Makes a huge
And what are your thoughts on staging, I guess?
Huge difference. I kind of felt the same way, like it is what it is. Just do virtual staging. It's not the same because a lot of these potential buyers are walking into it and they're thinking, oh, there's this beautiful bed here and there's this, beautiful couch, and it doesn't exist, right? So I think it's better to have a home professionally staged, and there's some great ones out there that are killing it. So I think it's a great idea to stage your property.
Yeah. That one you were in yesterday, that was all staged.
Yeah.
I don't know if you could tell.
I could.
Like you can tell when it's
Yeah.
staged, right? Yeah. But it still makes it look well. And yeah, people know that it's staged, but I think they really appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
So
the only thing that with staging that I'm like, why did you do this? Like a lot of times you can tell if there's a lamp in a corner with no light bulb in it.
Oh my gosh, I know,
Just
right?
put the light
bulb in and plug it in.
Yeah.
Like, please. Because I'll even see it where they're just like unplugged and the cord's on the floor.
Yeah.
But again, those are like probably just not the best stagers. I did walk into a condo yesterday that I showed, wasn't with our stager or anything, not my listing. And they used boxes for the bed. Like, it, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It didn't look that bad though. Like, it looked pretty good. It is a unique way of doing it, but you could still tell like how rectangular it was. I'm like, those are boxes.
Did they have a sign like "Don't sit"?
They didn't, but I've seen that before.
Yeah.
And I've actually walked into a listing where it's like dented in because somebody's kid dove onto the bed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, anything else that about like Rock Rose that you want to touch on?
Yeah. I mean, just as far as like the team that we have at Rock Rose, like every single person, you're getting the same experience with everyone that you talk to. Like, I don't think there isn't one person on our team that isn't solid. Like, everybody's super cool, super intelligent. Like, we have some awesome people on the team, and, just coming into the situation where Matt and Ian kind of like built this thing up. I mean, there's obviously other people that did it, but it started with Matt, right? And he built it to a crazy degree, and he's 20 at that point. He's 20 years old or something.
Yeah.
And I think back to myself when I was that age, and I've been asked before, like by my wife, like when I first started, she's like, your boss is 21 or whatever.
Yeah. How
does that feel, right?
Exactly.
And I'm 25, so it's like no, and in the beginning, I thought it would affect me more. I'm like, that's so odd, like to be working for somebody that is,
tell the people your real age.
Young. I'm 35.
Yeah.
35.
But I'm sure like anybody would have that question. Like, your boss is, what is that, 13 years younger than you?
Yeah. We talk about, like, I've talked about 9/11 before, and he has like, it's like, I remember going to school and like watching it on the TVs or whatever. Like,
wait, was he born?
That experience.
No, he wasn't.
No.
That's insane.
No, it would be,
because he's 22 now.
Yeah.
2024 minus 22 is 2002. He wasn't alive yet. That's crazy.
How, like, isn't that odd to think about?
Yeah, we'll have to ask him. maybe with his age, like the month he was born in, maybe he was.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe. But I mean, I thought it would affect me more than it does, but it's just so cool to be around people with that level of intelligence.
Yeah.
So it's
and
absolutely
to add to that too, like when you're around intelligent people and you're working with like-minded individuals, like you said, all of us could be in the room together, and you could be 35, he could be 18, another guy could be 29.
Yeah.
Matt's 22. You could have somebody in their 40s, but if everybody is on the same wavelength and like-minded, your age doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, I work with a lot of different agents in our office, and I am one of the younger ones. Like, the median age in real estate is actually pretty high. Like, I want to say it's like 50s.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well, somebody will have to fact check that. So I work with a lot of like people who have much more quote unquote experience than me. You always hear somebody saying, "Oh, I've been doing this for 20 years." Well, when I say, I've been doing this for 4 years, technically I've been doing it for almost 5 years, but like I don't count my little lapse of starting a different business. But like, you're around people of different ages all the time.
Yep.
And I think if you were to be the person that had a problem with it, it just goes to show like you have an ego and you think you're better than, other people who are younger than you.
Right.
When that's not the case. Like that younger person might just have as much or more to bring to the table than we do.
Yeah.
So I think you have the best mindset for it, and I have a whole lot of respect for you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Because if you said, I work for a 22-year-old, it sucks, then I'd be like, all right, well, then you should do something different.
Yeah.
But you have a very good mindset around that.
For sure.
So what's next? Like for you or for the company or like, do you have a vision of what the future looks like?
Yeah, just trying to build the brand as much as possible. Before Rock Rose, obviously, I was like in my own photography and trying to build that. Now I'm doing that, still doing that like on the side for fun and for friends and family, whatever. Still accepting clients and things like that, but because I thoroughly enjoy it, like I actually enjoy doing that. But I'm more focused on Rock Rose as a whole.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna do great things, and we've got a great team to do so. And we just signed up Mr. Jameson Borden. He's 19. And again, it's like, when you think of these ages, I remember back when I was 19, 20 years old, 21, whatever. I'm 20 years old, and I remember getting out of high school and thinking like one of my buddies and I, his name's Ryan. We grew up together, and every year in August, I think the new Madden video game would come out. No matter what job we had, literally we would take off of this job for the whole week. No, swear to God. And we would play this Madden video game for the whole week. And we would tell our boss that we're like out of town. And we'd just be sitting at each other's houses somewhere. And we'd just sit at each other's houses and play this video game. How stupid. Dude,
I totally, I relate to you. My buddy Nate and I think I was probably 20 at the time. I went to a local college here, and he lived in Waukesha, and I'd be at his place all the time.
Yeah.
And we literally would play Call of Duty, and at the time, like, you could buy Doritos and Mountain Dew, and it like was like something to do with the game, right? So we would do that, and we would buy like a 5-pound bag of Sour Patch Kids and just like mow down.
Yeah.
I don't touch any of that kind of stuff anymore, dude. But I was 20, and I'm like, that's what a 20-year-old does. No, because we got 19-year-olds coming in and crushing the game.
I wonder if it's like a technology thing too. Like they grew up with better technology than we had, or maybe I'm just making excuses.
No, you're right. You're right, bro. You're right. No, I think that might have something to do with it. Yeah. Like, we had some technology, but it wasn't anything like we have now. Like, I remember like TikTok and Reels, like all that stuff is huge right now. And there's a lot of educational stuff that like leads you to like longer form content, which I guess we kind of do that too.
Yeah.
But like you can come across like, let's use Andy Elliott for an example. I don't know if you know who that is, but he is like a sales life coach, business coach. I came across a reel of his, found more information on like a podcast, on YouTube videos, like all that is leading to like longer form educational stuff. And that's really big right now. And I think like their age, like that generation has access to that kind of stuff that we didn't have as easy access to.
For sure.
So I'm making excuses for us, but I think there is a little bit of truth to it.
Yeah.
Like I started getting into like the educational stuff like in my early 20s, but it started becoming more popular then. Like a lot of people started filming a lot more on YouTube. And like my first content creator, real estate guru coach that I found on YouTube in 2018 was Meet Kevin. His name's Kevin Paffrath. He's a real estate agent investor in California. But I remember just devouring content, and that could have just been me. All that stuff could have existed before, and that's just when I found it. But I feel that like right now it exists so much more. And younger generation has access to that, and they're able to like start getting fired up. And of course there's always going to be the kids who are out, drinking, smoking, partying.
Right.
But now a lot more that I'm seeing are able to like start businesses online, start businesses from their phone. Like, it's an exciting time, especially in like, the tough economy and the tough world and just like everything that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
College is insanely expensive for them to go into. It was a little bit more affordable for our age group. I know you got a little bit of time on me, but like our generation, we had a little, now I'm sure is way more expensive. And like some of them are like, why go that route when I can go this route? So education is everywhere. You don't just have to be college educated.
Yeah.
You can get YouTube education.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like you're saving, for kids' college funds and stuff. You're kind of saving that money as like a parachute for them, but you don't even know if they're going to end up going to school. Like, it might be obsolete at that point.
I honestly have thought about that too. And we have kids, so it's like, you got to think about that. I do have a college fund started for Sophia, and I'm like, I hope she goes.
Yeah.
But I won't be mad at her if she doesn't.
For sure. Because there's always other avenues now. And I think back in the day, it just got like a negative, like there were negative connotations to not going to school. Right? Yeah. But I have so many friends that they, puff their chest out and I went to school for, 4 years and the degree that they got, they're not using. So they're in major debt. What do you have to show for that? Right. Just to tell people that you went to school. So I think you could see a lot more of that too. But I don't know. I don't know where that's headed.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I'm glad I went to college and everything, but I got my degree in finance, so that like that gives me some quote unquote a little bit of credibility. But I'm like, if I'm being honest, that degree hasn't really done too much in my fields in finance. Okay. Like business administration with finance or whatever. Got it. And I mean, I built a lot of connections while I was there, but man, that could be an expensive way to build your network. Your network, exactly. Yeah. And there's so many other ways to do it now.
Yeah, you're like, I've got this sphere of influence, but it cost me $80,000.
Yeah, exactly. And thankfully, I was in the military, so like they covered a pretty good amount. Yeah. But yeah, we'll see what the future holds for all of that. Yeah. I've definitely thought about that before. I'm glad you brought it up, because who knows when, I guess 15 years from now, I'll find out if my first daughter is going to go to college, or if there's some other business that she'll create or some entrepreneurial path she'll take. If she's anything like me.
Yeah. Is that kind of a thought with your kids? Like, you want them to follow in your footsteps? Would that be like a dream of yours to have like your kids working with you?
I don't know if I've thought that far about it. Like right now I'm just like, they're these little kids, and part of me forgets that they're going to grow up. Yeah. I see these little ones, and like this morning, like I said, very real example of, I'm like, dang, this little girl's growing up. She doesn't look the same. She doesn't have that chubby face. She's a little gymnast now. She goes to gymnastics. Yeah. But that's something that I'll have to think about. I'm like, what do I want for them? I mean, I want what they want when they figure that out. Like, I'll give them direction. But do I want them to get into real estate? I don't know what the future of real estate necessarily looks like. It's always evolving. I think it's a great way to create some amazing skills. Like, I feel that I've developed very good communication skills, sales skills. Like, if there's some people who get into real estate think they're just going to be showing houses, drinking coffee, hanging out in an office, but you can maybe do that for a little bit and then realize that you'll not make it. Or you have to go on the offense and you have to go find it. You kind of hunt what you eat what you kill. Yep. Essentially. And I would love for them to develop these skills of like communication and sales and persuasion, and because that could take you anywhere you want. You can get into any field. And ultimately, what my goal is to create a life for them that I didn't have. And I love my parents. Like, if they ever listen to this episode, like, they did everything they could, and they loved us, and it wasn't always easy, but it made me who I am today.
Yep.
We didn't grow up rich. I got myself through many things financially. Like I've been working since I was 14. Get my first job at Culver's.
Mine was McDonald's.
Nice.
Yeah, 13.
Do you know that 7 out of 10 people have worked at McDonald's?
I heard something about that, and I was like, "There's no way." But I guess
I just heard that. So
yeah.
Again, fact check me. But I started working at a young age, and honestly, I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
Because I know other people that didn't, and they don't have the work ethic. Like I developed that very early, and I learned that when you work hard, you get paid. And when you get paid, you can do things like, this is a very random example, but when I was 16 years old, I wanted to get my driver's license because all my other friends were.
Yeah.
And we couldn't afford to put me through driver's ed. And I remember it was $295.
Did you have it at the school, or did you have to go to a
It was at
location?
school,
Yeah.
but you had to pay for it. And it was $295, and I saved all my paychecks, bro. I was making like $725, $750 an hour. So I don't know how many hours that is, but like that's a pretty good amount of time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to get my license. My parents did have like an extra car, like just this old one. And I was like, I'm going to learn how to drive. I'm going to get my license. And like working and saving and buying that, like to improve my life so that now I can drive around and drive to Taco Bell or drive to school. Like the only things you care about when you're that age.
Yeah.
But it taught me that like, if you work hard, you can get paid, and that can fund the things that you want to do with your life. Not just like buy clothes. Sure, you can do that too. And you can buy whatever you want.
Yeah.
But you can do things like put yourself through driver's ed, put yourself through school, invest into your business. Like I've done a lot of that throughout the years. It's like you make money so that way you can continue growing what you're trying to grow. It's not just about buying things. Where I don't know if everybody has that same mindset of like working hard from a young age. So
yeah. And I think that's a great example that you're setting for your kids too. I think that's awesome. Like that you have that goal. And a lot of times, the way you grow up, you either mimic that same behavior or you deviate from it, right? So you can use it as an excuse and, oh yeah, I grew up, with not a lot of money. I couldn't even put myself through school. So I'm going to make my kids struggle that same way. I don't know if that's the way to go with it.
No, I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's like, hey, this happened to me, so you're going to do the same thing. Like, no, I'm going to set them up for success. But I also am not going to be like, hey, just so you know, your college is covered. Whatever, you want to start a business, it's covered.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like that.
Yeah.
I want them to work at a young age just to learn some skills. I don't know if I'm going to make them work at a fast food restaurant.
Yeah. You know what, though? The thing about fast food is I feel like when you do it at an early age, you quickly discover that that's not what you want to be doing.
Yeah.
Right. So it kind of gives you a little bit of extra motivation. Like, okay, I need to do something different because I don't want this to be my life.
And at 14, 15, that's like really the only things that are accessible to you at that time. So like, I was going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I did learn like, this is not for me. Eventually I want something different.
Yeah.
But I do want them to, one thing that I really want for them is to be in sports. Specifically, I think like we're focused on having them in gymnastics. Thankfully, Sophia loves it so far. Gabriella she doesn't talk yet, and she's not.
You're like, so we have her in t-ball,
right? But she does forward rolls, and I'm like, it's a little sketchy when she does them. But anyways, I want them to like be in sports to learn that kind of discipline. And I also do want them to have some sort of work where they're earning a wage so that they can start understanding how money works. But I'm not trying to teach them like trading your time for money. That's not exactly it. But I want to teach them hard work and what it looks like to create wealth and to build wealth.
Yep.
Not just hand it to them on a silver platter. Say, hey, you're all good. Like, they will be okay. We are going to make sure that their lives are set up as best as we can. You never know what can happen over the next 15 years. but I know I'm going to work extremely hard to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a great way to be.
You know, it's always fun talking to you though, bro.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We don't get to chat a whole bunch at the shoots and everything because, you know, you got to make sure the shot looks good and we talk between and everything. But I'm really glad we got to sit down and, you know, just learn more about each other. That's exactly why I started this. Was because I wanted to talk about real people and real stories. You're one of the realest, bro.
That's awesome, dude. I appreciate it. And there's certain times where I have like imposter syndrome where I'm like, you know, when you called me and, hey, do you want to do this podcast? I'm like, did you call the right person? Like, why do you want to talk to me? I don't feel like I'm that interesting or whatever, but it's awesome to get to know you better as well. And I mean, from the first shoot that I did with you, I'm like, all right, this guy's cool. I like him.
Yeah,
and you didn't,
I agree.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it's
and what you said there before we close here is like, you know, I believe that no matter who you are, what you do, like where you come from, everybody has a story. Like there might be, I might be wrong on this, but I believe that there's not a single person in this world who hasn't faced something challenging or had a life like defining moment. Like we all have that. And the more that we share it, the more others will see, like, you know, Instagram and Facebook, it's not just filled with a bunch of like super successful people who have never struggled in their life. Like, no, we've all struggled. We're all real people. We all have real feelings. And that's really what I want to do. Yeah.
And there's a lot of beauty in that too, where you connect with somebody and you think, oh, they've had the same struggles I had, or they're going through something and I'm going through something. It's nice to know that other people are like that as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show, bro.
Absolutely.
This might be one of our best ones yet.
I hope so, man. I hope we get some good thumbnails.
We will. We will. You got the fresh haircut. I got the fresh haircut. We're good, bro.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Thanks again for coming on. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us on today's episode. We covered an incredible story with AJ about his background, his real estate experience, and photography. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe this episode.